Conan the Barbarian, 1982. It's time for a Swords and Sorcery fantasy review. It's amazing that this is the first official adaptation and the first movie of the franchise, based on the character Conan the Barbarian, who was actually created in the pulp magazines of the 1930s Depression era America. And if you're not familiar with the pulp magazines, they were basically short stories, pre-comic books. By the time Superman and Spider-Man came out in the late 30s, it made the pulp short stories. It was obviously just basically writing on cheap newspaper type of paper with no artwork other than the cover. And of course they were Western stories and action, adventure, sci-fi, and it gave birth to the Swords and Sorcery from the godfather of Swords and Sorcery, Robert E. Howard, one of the legendary writers from that era. He even died in 1936 at the age of 30. But he created this character and the cult character onto the movie that really was Arnold Schwarzenegger's breakout role. He was the bodybuilder throughout the 70s. That even got him the role of Hercules that he played in the early 70s. He played Hercules 10 years, over a decade before he played the Conan character. But he still wasn't that fluid in English. So in this, what we really get is a grunting barbarian inspired whole world that's inspired by kind of Viking type of era and fantasy where wizards and swords and monsters exist. There isn't much, so he doesn't have many lines other than grunts. The action is kind of dated. A lot of the movie is just done by a narrator all throughout who chronicles the story and tells the story of Conan the Barbarian. I swear that screenplay had been 60 pages, let's be serious. And it's a 2-hour movie. But the intro and the narration telling the story is amazing of Conan.
They're really overdoing it if you ask me.
But basically no special effects other than the big spider. Oh no, other than the big snake prop that he kills. The villain is played by James Earl Jones, Thulsa Doom, and it's like a revenge plot. He obviously killed his parents and he sets out on a quest to kill the evil sorcerer. But James Earl Jones, oh my god, it just makes you just think of his role as Kakuma from Exorcist 2 the whole time, is what you're thinking. It's really not that intimidating, and his voice isn't as intimidating as the electronically altered Darth Vader role that he played 5 years earlier in Star Wars. But he ends up cutting off his head. The movie makes $129 million. And
I really don't know what to say.
a lot of nudity that they decided to pour in there as also filler. But then his wizard really doesn't do much magic for him. He's just there for comic relief. I really don't get it. Read the Marvel comic books that started in the 70s if you really want the true adaptation of the Conan world, because it was a limited budget. They didn't do that much special effects that they could have done, but they came back 2 years later for Conan the Destroyer, which is a review I'm about to do next. So thank you for listening. I give it a B- overall. Not too bad for an early 80s swords and sorcery movie for the limited resources that they were under, you know. So this was JBM for Mr. Creepshow 9 Villain Radio. I'm out.